Does that warm your heart? Chris Fletcher?
Dave Finoli. Well, I
Oh.
got to tell you, I don't know whether you saw this or not, but Otani had bet against our song working tonight.
Did he is he trying to get that 4.5 million back?
He is trying, man.
Double or nothing.
He's waiting for he's going to let it ride till next week, from what I understand.
Oh my God. My God. What a, let's say, crap show that is.
Yes, this is a family show, so yes.
All right. All right.
So what do you do?
I mean, you got to investigate it there. I'm not saying he bet on the game, but how did the guy get the money?
Yeah. Let's see. I'm making 300,000, which, by the way, an interpreter must be a good job if he's making 300,000.
I wish I knew another language now.
Yeah. I mean, I could do Pig Latin. I don't know if that's going to help anybody, but do you really think the guy with that salary is going to get that kind of credit line? Come on now.
That's just wild. And then his own people are lying about it.
Everybody's lying, Dave. Well, I will tune in tomorrow to see what the story is morphed to.
It makes it interesting, but if you're the commissioner of the league, the worst commissioner in sports, by the way, you're crap in the bed. Notice I used that a second time.
Again.
You're crap in the bed, thinking your number one selling point, you might have to suspend.
Oh, how beautiful would that be?
Well, it's not something like Roger Goodell, where he's going to get all the owners together and burn the evidence, since the government is actually the one doing the investigation at this point.
Well, and the other part of it is, if I'm not wrong, I think the betting is illegal like that in California too.
You are absolutely correct on that. Absolutely correct. It is very illegal, and it is an illegal bookie. And I love they're claiming the guy was confused. He thought it was legal.
Yeah.
But did he think it was legal to steal $4.5 million?
Well, he didn't do that until the second day of the story.
Okay. It's confusing, but it breaks up. It would certainly break up the Dodger monopoly.
It would.
Boy,
now, and I would assume they wouldn't pay him.
I would think you wouldn't have to pay him.
Because that would be outside the morals clause, I would think.
But don't forget, he's taking not much money now.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. So that would really bite the Dodgers in the derriere. I'm on a roll.
You are.
I'm trying to think of another word for pussy when that comes up later in the...
Well, Otani bet on the use of that word in the show as well. So,
Okay. Well, maybe we'll use that on him later on.
Maybe we will.
I'm betting I'm going to use it on Connor Joe because...
Really?
Not that he is a pussy.
Wow.
He needs a last name. He just needs a last name. I dub Bradley.
I got you.
But
it's almost pirate season, Dave.
It is almost pirate season, which is Thursday. I believe it's 3:00, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe you are correct.
In one of the god-awful, ugliest stadiums I've ever seen.
Terrible.
What were you thinking? What were you thinking when everybody's trying to make classic?
Oh, horrible.
Oh, man, just nasty. But it's exciting. Name the 26-man roster.
Some surprises.
Some shocks. I would say. Let's take a look at it section by section, Chris.
All righty.
Let's start with the infield. Your favorite at first base.
Well, I'm still not convinced. We'll see what Rowdy Tellez brings to the plate. Hello.
Yeah.
Do you platoon him with Connor Joe, playing Connor Joe against the lefties and the Rowdy man against the righties?
In a theoretical world, yes. But how do you platoon a guy with no last name?
First, you have to recognize him. And you're not ready to do that yet.
How can I be? Uncle Joe? That's not a last name. Do we change his first name to Uncle?
Well, the problem is that he's too fast to be called Uncle Joe. because he wouldn't be moving kind of.
No, wouldn't be moving kind of slow. Nor
But,
would Edgar Buchanan have been a good first baseman, Chris?
Possibly. But with Tellez, the short right field's kind of intriguing.
Well, that's what makes him. I mean, there's a real possibility you get the 2022 Tellez, which was a 32 home run man, 25 doubles. If you get that, 4.5 million, all of a sudden,
not so bad.
I mean, if you're Bob Nutting, do you pay that to a bookie first, or give it
well,
to Ralph?
You consult your translator first.
Okay. I agree. But that's the one. I mean, how many times have we tried this with the big bopping Matt Stairs like first baseman? It doesn't fail, I would say, but it usually doesn't come out the way you hoped.
No, but I think it has the potential to be an upgrade from last year.
Yeah. I mean, everybody wants to go nuts on Santana, and he was good defensively at first, although is that real important to have a real good defensive first baseman?
No.
Probably not as.
But his on-base percentage was decent.
It was decent, and he hit 12 homers in half a year, but don't forget 8 of those were like in a month, in the last 2 or 3 weeks. Right. He got hot at the end. So, yeah, that could be an upgrade. The second base decision, a lot of people are questioning. I love it.
I knew you would. I knew he was your guy. Triolo was your guy.
He was. He gives you a Gold Glove potential. And again, you're facing a team that wants to be built on pitching.
Right.
That defense last year was god awful.
Except for third,
exactly. And he was out for 2 months.
Right.
But Triolo played third. That's what brought him up, and he did well there. But it was god awful everywhere else. Now you got a second baseman with Gold Glove potential who seems like he's going to get on base a lot. He could be an Adam Frazier type, 290, 300 hitter, gets on base a lot. Do you miss Peguero in there and his bopping potential?
I like the bopping. I definitely like that.
So would you have put Triolo there, or would you feel more comfortable with Peguero there?
I think they made the good choice because you could, if something happens to Hayes, you just move, Triolo over to third because he proved he could play that position last year.
Yeah,
so that's fine. The big thing though is hopefully they're getting a full season of your star shortstop coming back, O'Neal Cruz.
Oh yeah, that could be huge. And if those spring training taters he was hitting,
they were not hated. There was no wind behind those.
Yeah, I mean, if he becomes potentially could be a 30-30 man, if he plays to his at maximum potential, he could be challenging 40-40.
I want to see what that injury did to his speed and to his ability, his lateral movement. That's what I want to see.
Well, that's certainly a good question. The only thing I can think of positive would be it wasn't in a joint.
Right. That's a good point.
Which, is going to benefit. But he's not the greatest. I mean, the day he hit 2 home runs, he also made 2 horrendous throws.
He's young.
But the potential, look, with a bigger base, you need a strong arm at short.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bank on trying to get him, keeping him in that position and getting him to learn to play a little more consistency. Plus, the one thing I saw when I went to Altoona to watch him for the first time, he looks awkward at 6'7" at short, but man, he gets to a lot of balls.
He has he has more range than a John Wayne movie.
I like it. You know, my Aunt Mary Ann, she was in love with John Wayne. And my brother, who is the core salesman extraordinaire,
right,
knocked on her door once, scared the hell out of her. He put a lie or a big arched cutout of John Wayne at her front door when she opened it. She screamed first, then was the best present she ever got.
Very nice.
She didn't like that I told her when he died, he had like gobs of pounds of crap inside him because apparently he didn't eat a lot of roughage. And that's what killed John Wayne. Did you know that?
I thought it was the Hollywood liberalism that killed him. Who knew?
Who knew? Who knew? Maybe that's what caused him to just back up.
Yeah, I think he was retaining something there. Yeah.
It could have been. It could have been. Is that more John Wayne than you ever wanted to know about?
That is more. And in fact, I think we're going to move on to third base. I don't know. Third base.
Third base. I like it. Third base.
Here's my question about third base.
Yeah.
Do we get the Key Brian Hayes who worked with his AA batting coach and started to hit the shit out of the ball at the end of the year? Or
hey, wait a minute.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hit the what?
Hit the ever-loving crap out of the ball.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. I thought some of them are still working privately with him.
Well, he lost his job with the team, didn't he?
He did, but they can work privately with a hitting coach too. They do have that option, and I did hear some are doing that. But I think the kid grew up. I think you're going to see him being the best overall hitter. As far as, he's not going to hit the home runs O'Neal Cruz is, but he's going to be, I think, a good 285 hitter. I think he could
give me 275, 280, and 15 homers. I'm happy.
Yeah, I think you could see him doing 20. But all of a sudden, you're infield now, Fletch. If Tellez does take advantage of that short porch, all of a sudden, that's a very strong infield. When was the last time we had a strong infield?
It's been a while.
Been a long while.
We
had hair a while.
Yeah. Outfield.
I'm thinking it's a stronger outfield than we had a year ago.
Yeah, on paper, yeah.
Yeah. And I like having a Gold Glover. He was only a Gold Glover 2 years ago, so it's not a far out thing. I like having Michael Taylor in the field. I mean, he is a Jack Sawinski, heavy strikeouts with power. I'm not sure I like that doubled up in my lineup, but
no,
I love that in the field.
Yeah, and if Brian Reynolds, when Brian Reynolds is on one of his streaks, it's just something to behold.
Yeah. Oh,
and Sawinski, as you said, there are times he just looks lost, but man, when he hits the ball, it goes.
It does. And do you really want that in your in center field?
Well, I mean, who else do you have? Olivares.
Well, no, I mean Jack Sawinski. I like him moving to.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. No, yeah.
And Olivares could potentially be. I'm not going to say he's a Bill Robinson out there, but he could be a Bill Robinson type in as far as you're going to get good production at the plate when he's there. I'm not sure that he's a good fielder, but I thought he had a sneaky good year offensively for Kansas City last year.
Yeah, no, I think it's not bad.
Yeah, and you have depth in the minors now, where you did not have that a year ago.
Here's the big disappointment for me of the spring.
Please.
Was Nick Gonzalez. First round pick. I thought he would have pushed more to make the big team, and he didn't.
No, he got a good start, but let me look on his final spring training stats here. Chris, I got the finger screen on one computer, but not on the other.
Oh,
tactical error on my part when I got the second computer. Yeah, Gonzalez. I mean, not horrible at 242, but you look at a 710 OPS. That's not what you want to see from a guy fighting. You're absolutely right on that.
And a guy who was a first round pick.
Yeah,
and a high first round pick. What was he? Was he seventh, eighth?
I think he was seventh, and he was said to be the best hitting collegiate.
Right.
But again, he didn't play in a strong conference, so that's what makes baseball's drafting process much more of a challenge than any other sport, because your hitters are hitting against pitchers unless you're playing in the major conferences. You're hitting against questionable pitchers. In high school, certainly against questionable.
It's the most inexact draft of them all.
But the one thing I am disappointed about, Alika Williams making
How
the team.
How did he make the team, Dave? I don't understand.
He hit 175. I tend to think Bay actually made the team, who's on the injured reserve at the beginning of the year.
Right. So they've got who on the injured reserve? They've got
they got Bay. They got Holderman,
right, and their catcher
Grandel,
yeah,
and they got Majewski. Right. is on the DL too. So you got 4 people. I'm going to say Bay will slide in there when he comes back. But here's my thing. I wish they had put Peguero into that slot because he can play both middle infields. He can, well, as you said, they could put him at second if Hayes goes down and Triolo can shoot over to third.
Did they want him to get more everyday work? Do you think that came into it?
I'm going to assume that was part of it. And don't think that they're not shopping around either Gonzalez or Peguero. And they don't want him just sitting at the major league level. Not getting at bats.
That's a good point.
So that is quite possible because you got the glut there and you do need pitching.
Speaking of which.
Well, let me just say the last guy, Connor Joe, he needs a last name. Anyways, let's go now to the pitching.
Big surprise, Dave.
Big surprise. And not a normal Pirate thing to do.
No. Jared Jones was so dominating in spring training. Gave up no earned runs in 16 innings, 3 unearned runs.
Yeah.
They had no choice, the way I see it.
I mean, the choice would have been, let's not bring our best pitchers up here and let's blow the first. I mean, all of a sudden, you got Keller, who I'd like to see a little more consistency from him.
Mm-hmm. But, man, when he's on, he's on.
He's on. I'm going to say naturally he will flow in a year or two. He's going to be your number 3 pitcher. And that's okay.
That would be great.
Good number 3 pitcher. Gonzalez and Perez. Gonzalez. He was questionable.
Well, he's the only lefty in your starting rotation.
Apparently not now, but we'll get to that in a second. What did he end up with? He ended up with like a 5.40 ERA, a 1.7 WHIP. But again, he pitched well in his last thing. Spring training, that's a thing when you talk about how good or bad guys did in spring training. You're talking 16 innings was the top.
Well, and you also, they may be out there specifically on one outing to work on their curveball. Or they may be, they may be charged with making sure that your pitch count is low. It really depends on what they're asking them to do in these games.
Exactly. And he has a good track record. I'm not upset at him there. Perez pitched well in his few innings. But again, they both have good track records. They both are legitimate 4 and 5 guys in a rotation. But Jones, man.
Woo. He was flirting with triple digits a lot of that time too.
He was. He's a hard worker. The only real thing he's had in his minor league career is just occasionally he gets wild.
Yeah.
But he just is such a hard worker, turned himself into a legitimate number 2 guy.
Yeah.
And if you see Skeens up here with Jones already getting his feet wet, man, Keller is the number 3 guy at that point because Skeens, he's the real thing. And I agree with sending him to the minors to get his work.
Absolutely. But he'll be up mid-year.
He will be. And I don't look at this as a Super 2 thing, which 90% of the people who are blaming them for that don't even understand what a Super 2 is.
No.
But I think he'll be up by the end of May. I wish
Wow,
they
you think
would.
that soon? That soon? I was thinking June, July, but wow.
If he does as good as we think he can after a month and a half in the minors, I think he's up. I was hoping they'd start him in Altoona just for selfish reasons.
Yeah.
He'd be close by. But you got those there. The thing I didn't like in that group, I thought Luis Ortiz had earned a spot as the 5 guy, especially how he pitched down the stretch last year.
Right.
Bailey Falter, look, he has a good whip. He's a lefty, but he just consistently gives up too many homers.
Yeah, he's a home run guy.
Yeah.
And maybe you hope it's the wind down there at League Home.
But
I don't know.
40 innings last year, he gave up 10 homers here.
Well, that's true.
So year before, he gave up, I want to say, 17 homers with the Phillies.
So what do you do with Quinn Priester?
You know what? He looked, I liked what I saw there, especially in his last outing. The outing before, he had 3 great innings. Then he blew up in the fourth, got pulled, gave up a homer after 3 great innings, but then he bared down and got out of the fourth. I kind of like that. But I also don't disagree with the fact, let's get him some more reps, get him to be dominant. Worst case scenario, he's going to make a real good middle relief guy.
Well, and Contreras is now finding himself in the bullpen.
I mean, both he and Falter, I don't disagree with them putting him down in the bullpen, because somebody's going to take Contreras if you let him go.
Oh yeah, and he should be able to get 3 hitters with the stuff that he has.
Right, and since they've been putting him in 1 innings, he's actually pitched pretty good down there.
Yeah,
his last couple. And how many slots do you have in a starting rotation in today's game?
Yeah, you got 5 maybe, and depending on your schedule at the beginning of the year, you may want 6.
Exactly. But that 6th guy is always going to be an opener.
Right, that's true.
So I don't have a problem with that. Falter,
I like the bullpen, Dave. I'm going to say it's one of the top 5 in the league, I think.
Well, and I think when, I mean, you're going to start the year with Fleming, Stratton, and Ryan. Ryan basically has pitched to 2 batters in the majors, struck them both out, but I mean, Fleming had some decent work with, I believe he had over 50 innings last year with Seattle, but they were average. I'm going to think both those guys are gone
when Holderman comes back,
and Majenski.
Yeah.
Stratton, they left off the 40-man originally, but don't forget, he actually didn't do badly last year.
No, he had a decent year. Bednar I was a little concerned with because he wasn't getting much work in spring.
Right.
Seems to have righted the ship.
Yeah.
Chapman, to me, is intriguing.
Had a hell of a year last year.
Yeah.
I mean, 122 strikeouts and 70-some innings? That's pretty, I'm going to say it, Chris, that's pretty badass.
It is badass. And, I like to have that lefty at the end, too.
Absolutely. I mean, so you get to an 8th inning, you've got the game won 99% of the time.
If these guys, you may be playing a 6 or 7 inning game.
Well, pretty much. I mean, Baruki, Holderman, Majeski. I mean, that's a pretty good bullpen from. I mean, you literally could do the opening routine once every 5 days and
if you had to.
Effective. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Ryan and Fleming, it's nice to see him in there, at least get an opportunity to get some stats for the baseball encyclopedia. But
well, I mean, I think this is a better team than the one that left Florida last year.
Without a doubt. I mean, that's one thing with playing that season in Strat. You realize just what a fluke that great start was.
Well, they also played bad teams at the beginning of the year last year, too.
Yeah.
That didn't hurt.
No, it didn't. But I did hear a rumor that potentially um, Ellie Rodriguez might be up at some point this year.
I thought Tommy John, you were out for.
It's pitching. Don't forget, Ohtani had Tommy John last year too.
Oh.
So I mean, he can't catch because he can't throw.
Right.
But there is a rumor at some point he might be able to be a bat off the bench. Of course, if he can't play the field, but then again, I don't know. I thought that'd be real intriguing if he could come back. That strengthens you up because, I mean, as good as DeLay and Grandal are behind the plate, you're carrying a 180 bat.
Well, one thing we didn't talk about, who had an unbelievable spring, was Henry Davis.
Where's our manners?
We left out our catcher. What's going on, man?
I don't know. I think I can't speak for you, Chris, but I personally was trying to concentrate on the good language.
There you go.
And I think that confused me. But man, the one thing I'm liking about this kid more than anything, the work ethic is incredible. But when you challenge him, last year, remember, they tried to pee him off,
right,
by sending him to Altoona, and he focused. He ripped apart minor league pitching.
Yep.
What he did in Altoona, that's a tough place to hit.
Well, yeah. Plus, you're smarting a little bit, and they basically told him that they wanted him to play outfield. I mean, it's all those things happening at once, and he handled it.
He did, and look what he did when they questioned whether he could be a major league catcher.
Yeah,
throwing that rumor out. Well, he might start in the minors, which would have been incredibly stupid, and I didn't buy it. But then again, when an 80-some-year-old man is claiming his sources told him that, you got to put that in perspective.
Well, that's true.
But man, did he work hard? He looks like an average major league catcher, which is incredible considering where he was.
Yeah, he's come a long way. And, there's still some holes. I mean, I would like more home run power at first base. I'm not convinced that Tellez is the answer, but I'd like another outfielder.
Yeah.
I think the pitching is going to work itself out. I'm not really. It might be ugly at first. They just need to survive the first month.
Yeah. But I mean, I was expecting for the first 2 months like 420 to 430 ball. I'm not expecting that anymore.
What do you have for a win total for the year?
I got 84.
I got 83. I'm seeing a lot of 70s, and I'm just not seeing it. I don't know what people are looking at.
Because I don't think they're the national outlets. I don't really think I think they're looking at the past, not what this is here. And I got to tell you, I like my baseball prospectus, but they're getting more snarky. It's like everything is instead of telling you pluses and minuses, which is all I want to read on these guys. Everything's a smarky, smart ass general manager, owner comment on each player. It's really irritating me that I might get to the point that either I'm going to write my own damn baseball prospectus, which I don't want to do because that's just too much time.
That's thankless.
Or maybe just not buy it every year.
Well, I'm going to go back to our youth again. 2 things we had to buy going into a season.
Yeah.
The Who's Who and the Street and Smith. Not anymore.
No. And I love Baseball Reference. Great site. Probably my favorite site on, what my favorite site on the web is?
Oneberg.
Okay. That's my 1A one.
Okay. All right.
Okay. 21-66books.com.
Ah, there you go. Congratulations on
plug here.
Congratulations on launching that.
Thank you. Thank you. But it includes every one of our books.
Nice.
Places to buy. The new 2166 line of books, which we're very busy adding to that. But it is your one stop. If you love Pittsburgh sports, Western Pennsylvania sports, you love your Pirates, you love your Penguins, you love your Steelers, you love Pitt, you love Duquesne, hell, even Wilkinsburg High School football. Do you love Wilkinsburg High School football, Fletch?
We've had kind of a falling out, but yeah.
All right. All right. Especially since it is no more. But anyways, it's all there. It's all there in one stop for your favorite Pittsburgh sports fan.
Nice.
It's
Congratulations, man.
Thank you. Where Western Pennsylvania sports history lives.
So does 83 wins or 84, let's say 83 and a half wins. We'll split the difference.
We could get a tie. You know, they got technically credited with a tie in 1979. I did not know that.
I did not know that. They won it by what, one game that year?
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, they have a tie that year, but go on. Go on.
Are they competitive? Are they in the race until, say, toward the end?
If you have 84 wins, yes. There are 3 wild cards now. It's not an 89 to 90 win deal to get in the wild card at this point, especially when you're top heavy. Because when you're top heavy, your division winners are going to be over 100 games, but everybody else, like last year with Arizona.
Right. But, you know, the thing, too, is so much for baseball is who gets hot when.
Yeah. And the pitching wins. The pitching in the postseason wins.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I have never seen our system anywhere near this deep in pitchers.
So if you're running out in a postseason series with Keller, Jones, and Scanes, I like my chances.
And that bullpen. That's a postseason bullpen.
Yeah. I mean, it's he has some options. Now, is it this year or is it next year?
I think this year they'll compete for one. I think next year they make it.
Yeah.
Because, again, as good as Skeens is going to be, as good as Jones is going to be, they're going to need to get their feet wet. I mean, it's rare, especially a pitcher comes up and just dominates from the get-go. They usually have a couple good games. Then the league catches up with them. Then they make the adjustments, hopefully.
One of the things I really enjoyed about their start last year was their running game.
Yeah.
And it seemed to either the league figured them out. They probably weren't getting on his base quite as much after that, but that speed game seemed to leave after the first couple months. I don't know. Maybe that's just my imagination, but
well, it did. I think it was more that they weren't getting on base as much. Because remember, they got off to a nice start offensively in that 20-6 run.
Yeah.
So I think that was more or less what it was. They just got.
You know, we also forgot another position.
DH.
DH. We didn't talk about Touch.
It's good DH. I think this will be his last year, though.
I think. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think he's an important part of the team because I think he shows the younger players how to prepare, how to be a major leaguer.
Yeah. But that's the one thing I love about Davis. I think he's prepared himself for that role when Kutch goes. I think he's
yeah.
So,
and you know, even though Kutch didn't have a high average, his on base percentage was great.
You know what? He had a great season. He hit in the clutch. I mean, 240 and striking out with men at second and third, and 240 when getting hits when men are at second and third is 2 different things.
2 different ball games. Yeah.
So, and he was hitting often well in the clutch. So overall, I think we're going to be happy, Fletch. I think we're going to be happy.
So speaking of happiness,
yes.
Are you happy with the Steelers quarterback room right now?
I think it's deeper. I tend to think Kenny had an opportunity to be a good quarterback, but if what I'm hearing is true, You got a maturity issue.
Yeah.
And by the way, we are legally obligated now as podcast sports people to talk about Steeler quarterbacks.
Yeah, we had no choice.
So, but I mean, I tend to be more of a fan of Fields than most people are. I think 2 years ago he showed a lot of good potential, and he didn't have exactly a lot of weapons.
No,
at
but
his disposal.
What I find to be intriguing is maybe you can have some sets where they're both in.
Absolutely.
Or, you use Fields as a change of pace.
Yeah.
Because that gives teams something that they have to prepare for.
Right. And I mean, we'll find out. Was it Denver's schemes and play calling last year, or is Russell Wilson finally done? But you know what? His stats, when you look at them, they weren't that bad.
I found a really interesting stat about him.
What's that?
He apparently eats AFC North teams alive.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So he will have 6 games against these people that he seems to feast upon. So,
okay. Well, I think it's a deeper quarterback room. I think it's potentially one that will stabilize the offense.
Yeah.
And don't forget, they want to run the ball. But
right.
Of course, they have to get offensive linemen to do that.
Yeah, I want to run the ball too, but
Yeah. I mean, they should have an offensive line where you and I can gain yardage, if pressed to do so.
Yeah, 3 yards in a puff of dirt.
But so,
we talked enough about the Steeler quarterbacks. We got to go more. What's the rule?
We got to go 16 more seconds.
Oh shit.
Dick Shiner.
Okay.
I don't know. If I mention a quarterback's name, does that count?
Well, I guess it does.
Okay, 2, 1. Okay, now we're
done. We're good.
Done. Now we also had an emotional week since since last week. Was that BYU game Duquesne played strikingly similar to the VCU championship game?
I aged both of those games. But you remember on our show last week,
I'm setting you up for this.
I made the claim that if they held BYU to under 10 made 3-pointers, they were going to win. BYU made 8. The Dukes won.
Dukes did win. They did win. But
man, did they run into a buzzsaw. Holy crap.
I felt bad for them because you could see when it was 9-2, those eyes were wide.
Yeah.
And you just didn't have much hope at that point.
Well, what was surprising to me was how all year long, they really defended the 3 pretty well. But they had no answer.
They were lost too. I mean, they were not playing the same positional defense.
No.
That they had. And you know what? Illinois is a good team.
It is a good team. The last month or so, they've shown it.
Yeah. And I'm not going to say it was an effort issue. I just think.
Oh, no. They just were outclassed.
Yeah. It was intimidated. They were intimidated. And that happens. But it's also a good growing thing. And that's
what happens next.
Well, I think Joyce is going to get the job.
Yeah, I do too.
Somebody mentioned that made me laugh. Who has
Huggy?
Who has bad feet? Yeah.
About
Huggy being their next coach, which made me chuckle. Yeah. Because anybody who does what he did on the air in Cincinnati gets a no tolerance vote and goes out and gets stinking drunk and drives into traffic.
Yeah. Nope.
And then denies he gave a resignation letter after admitting he gave it up front.
And the funny thing was that he said, "Oh, I'll come back to West Virginia if there's a change in leadership." Hey, first of all, no one asked you to come back.
No, that's why I love that they didn't hire him.
Yeah.
He's my pussy of the week.
There we go. Otani cashing in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But okay, let's go back to the Dukes for a second.
Yeah.
If it's me and I'm in that athletic department, I'm hitting my alumni up for NIL money.
Well, I think that's why it's important Joyce gets that job. Because if Joyce gets the job, you got there we go.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
There we go. It's only a matter of time.
You know what? I'm actually a guy that I don't mind WVU. I root for it. They're my Big 12 team. I like the guy they hired.
I did too. That was a great hire.
I think that was a quality hire, and I think he's the right guy to put WVU back on track.
Yeah, I agree.
By the way, heck of a game by the WVU girls last night.
A little controversy, would you say?
I say they got screwed.
Well, that's one way of putting it.
Yeah, I'd say they got screwed, but it was a heck of an effort against Iowa.
How about your Duquesne women's team?
Oh,
clutch overtime win.
We got two darn good. We like Dante's asking. We're going to talk about them in a second, but our outlook for the Steelers this year is they need an offensive line. If they get an offensive line, kid from Oregon at center is who I think at this point they need to draft number one, because if you don't have the center, you can't play quarterback well. So if that offensive line is upgraded, I look at them as an 11 win team this year with the quarterback situation. If they tend not to get that center and we're going to scrap heap, man, a 37-year-old quarterback better still be mobile.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Because you're going to be running for your life, pal.
I know. So, anyways, we're getting back to Duquesne. That's why you hire Joyce, because you need, and I'm sure part of that NIL money might come from LeBron. That's a good connection to have.
Oh, that's a good point.
So,
if not, they're going to get nice shoes.
Get nice shoes, but I think he proved himself.
Yeah, I think so. I think I mean, he's been with Coach Jerem about the whole time. So
exactly, and it's worked.
You need consistency, Dave.
Yeah,
as much as you can with a retiring coach.
Exactly. I would agree with you. I would absolutely agree with you. But it's a good time. It's going to be great next year, as apparently they're planning a nice banner raising ceremony.
Cool.
Which, if they don't raise every blessed banner that they should raise, I'm going to still be PO'd.
Get that 1950s NIT banner up there. Get that 19.
You won the 55 national championship.
Okay. Why don't you recognize that? And it's going to be, 70 years next year.
Exactly.
Do something.
You have to recognize it. Those guys, I think they're all gone now. I think Mickey Winograd was still alive a couple of years ago.
He was the last one.
Yeah, I think he's gone now. But by the way, Adam Heisdu shirt.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
I would be more impressed if it was an Altoona Adam Heisdu. Do you have the Adam Heisdu Altoona bobblehead?
I do.
Wow, that's
impressive. Had I had a child after Adam Heisdu was a hero, I would have named my child after him, like many in Altoona did, I'm certain.
Well, yeah. He was very popular there, let's just say.
Yeah. But
so bobbleheads, they found him.
They did find him. Real quick, Dante, we said 84 and 83 wins for the Pirates this year.
Yeah.
But they found the bobbleheads, but they're going to make you work for them, Fletch.
I heard. So what's your feeling on this? Are you going to wait in the garage for like 4 hours or what?
I think I'm going to go down and I'm going to see what the line looks like. It might be that most of the season ticket holders go to that Tampa Bay game that they're giving them out at. And it might not be as long as I'm thinking, but if there's a line there, yeah, I'm turning around. That is you screwed up and you're inconveniencing me on a Sunday.
Well, Ohtani has the over-under at 3. So,
Man,
take that for what it's worth.
Could be a $3 million bet. Now, do you suspend him, Fletch, if it's found that he bet? Or do you try to sweep it under or make an excuse because he's your money guy?
Hey, it's not like Roger Goodell's running this thing. And they're not going to be burning evidence left and right.
Oh, man. That is a weird story. But it's what makes sports interesting in today's day and age.
But you know what? There's such hypocrisy with gambling in sports right now, and the connections that are made for legal gambling. I'm talking about. This was not, but still, I mean, this is why you wanted to keep gambling nowhere near any of these games.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because one thing I wanted to bring up tonight, Bernie Bickerstaff, the coach of the Cavaliers, came out the other day telling about how he's been threatened, how the players are being threatened by gamblers, how he's been asked to fix games.
Wow.
How can you as a league? I mean, I'm a capitalist. I'm all for making money when you can. But how do you do that? How in the hell do you go to bed with these people to the point that they're building a gambling shop inside the Jake in Cleveland?
Yeah, I saw that.
And yet you're bitching at, well, you can't gamble.
No, they can gamble. They can't place bets from the team facilities.
Which is stupid. Especially since now in Cleveland, you have a gambling place in the team facility.
Yeah, you can, yeah.
I mean, I'm just absolutely dumbfounded.
Genie's out of the bottle, Dave. Not going back in.
And even ESPN, who, of course, likes to rail against every societal issue, which, not that I disagree with what they're saying, but I don't want that in my sports because I watch sports to get away from stuff.
Yeah.
But now, after doing that, they're developing their own gambling site.
Ugh.
Just don't come at me with, you want to do this stuff. Do not come at me with how bad others are for doing it.
You know what I look at as a gamble, Dave?
What's that?
My condiments. Even though they're past the expiration date, are they still good? That to me is a gamble.
It's a huge gamble. It's a huge gamble.
Now mayonnaise is in a different world. Mayonnaise, you don't mess with the mayonnaise.
You don't mess with the mayonnaise. I agree, but you mess with the ketchup.
Ketchup, mustard, come on.
And what about breadcrumbs?
Okay. Oh, what do they do? You get stale? Get the hell out of here.
It's already stale. It's already stale, Fletch.
These are the gambles of our times.
Well, I agree with you. I agree with you. And that's a great thing when I go to my father-in-law's house. We have a game. He likes to buy lots of stuff at the dollar store, even though he's a fairly well-to-do guy. He doesn't like to spend money on food. He likes the deals. So we go down in his basement and we play the game. What's the oldest can you can find? The record has been 7 years past the due date.
Wow, nice.
Yeah. So you want to talk a gambler? This man, I don't know when the last time he probably had a solid bowel movement.
Well, you know who would know? It's Ohtani. He would bet on it.
He would bet on it. Oh, I think Sam's going to have a solid bowel movement today. What are the odds?
So what do you do? I mean, you got to, if it turns out
50 games minimum.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for God's sake, put Rose in the Hall of Fame. As much as I dislike the man.
Yeah.
As much as he was a scumbag through this whole thing and made a ton of money off it.
Yeah.
Put him in the Hall of Fame.
Shoeless Joe, man. Needs to be
Put him in the Hall of Fame. He needs to be there. And as much as people disagree with me, the best of the steroid guys, because you put Bud Selig in.
You opened that door when you put the guy who was overseeing the sport at that time. Once you put him in there, all bets are off.
Exactly. And then you put Ortiz in, who was mentioned as having potentially done steroids. Ivan Rodriguez, Mike Piazza, they were all bandied around with that because they were nice guys.
Right. You don't have Rafael Palmeiro because he pointed a finger.
Yeah.
You don't have Bonds because he was prickly as hell.
Right. Right.
And
that whole prickly thing, getting on that point, that's why Al Oliver is not in the Hall of Fame. And that's just a crime.
Well, and Al Oliver lost at least one season because of collusion.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
he had what, 2,700 plus hits.
Yeah.
A year and a half. He's at the 3,000 hit mark.
He was still hitting well.
Yeah.
So he gets screwed. Parker gets screwed. Yeah, he took drugs. Okay. I don't know that it made him a better player, but it's not the press's job to be the moral compass in this in this world. No. And they're an absolute joke. I mean, Schilling is a Hall of Famer. He's a jerk. He's a Class A jerk.
Yeah,
can't stand him. But he is the best postseason pitcher I've seen in my life.
Major asshole. Should be. Yeah. Few second basemen have that kind of.
Exactly. But you got 800 guys who are the moral compass.
You know, I was thinking about another guy who we never talk about. A guy with 4 batting crowns who's not in the Hall of Fame.
Mad Dog.
Mad Dog.
Yeah. I mean,
I think he's the only one with 4 batting crowns who's not in.
He's not in. I mean, and if nothing, these guys need to be the non-steroid guys. The steroid guys, just put them in. Get a committee, put them in. But Madlock, I'd respect more if he wasn't in, if they at least gave him serious consideration.
Yeah, you should be in the conversation. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, and it just chaps my ass. I'm going to say it. I'm not going to say arse on that.
Well, you're allowed to baboon on this.
I am. Although
you made baboon all your life for that one.
You're making me want to go back and see if my Bertman's mustard, which I can only get when I'm on the turnpike in Ohio.
That's right.
It's the only mustard I'll eat, Fletch. I don't like the yellow French's stuff.
Well, I'm going to say it's past its due date. But Dave, that's a best guess. You cannot say for sure that these things are not good.
What kind of foods did they save when we were going to be nuked and we had our nuclear cellars? That they would save food for 20 years.
Right.
They all have due dates on them. Twinkies. Are you going to tell me Twinkies are going to go bad?
Twinkies will survive any nuclear strike.
Anything. Spam?
Oh.
Come on. Spam. Which, by the way, before we go, Spinal Tap 2 on its way.
I heard.
Very excited.
Yes.
Why 11? Because it's one more than 10.
10. I do every November 11th. I do wish the general population a happy Nigel Tufnell Day.
And they probably don't know now, but they will know soon.
They will not.
They will know soon. Oh, I can't wait for that one.
And next week we will turn it up to 11. Will we not?
We will. What do you want to talk about next week?
Oh, I guess we're kind of forced to talk about the tournament next week, huh?
All right. I've taken this Houston club into my bosom.
Ugh.
Okay.
I'm going to wake up screaming with that image. Thank you for that.
I want to tell you that. I want you to have that image.
Well, as long as you don't have Phil Mickelson man boobs, I'm all right.
Well, does he lactate? And if he lactate, does he try to lactate almond milk? And is it
no, it depends on which tour he's on, I suppose. I don't know.
I guess, but you had 4 guys fouling out of a game, and somehow you hung on to win.
Yeah, that's impressive.
That's a gutsy, well-coached win.
Yeah.
So, and it takes me back to Phi Slamma Jamma. one of my
Yeah,
favorite.
that was a fun team to watch.
That was just fun. Absolutely fun. Probably the best team. You can take your Georgetown teams, but that's the best team not to win a national championship in my eyes.
Yeah, and maybe one of those UNLV teams too that didn't
But
win.
they eventually did win.
They did win. You're right.
They did win. But
That's
Catanian, probably my favorite coach of all time. Imagine what he would do with NIL. He'd never lose.
No.
Man would never lose.
But boy, I can't even imagine coaching with that whole system now.
It's a bear. It just has to be a bear. And you look at the guys, as you find out, the guys who turned down the NIT bid was not just a pouting thing, but they were concerned about players going into the NIL because, again, the NCAA and their stupidity opens up the transfer portal before the tournament.
Yeah. Wow.
Could there be a worse? You say what you want about Rob Manfred. Could there be a worse run organization than the NCAA?
No. Nope. Maybe we'll talk about stuff we hate about sports next week.
Let's do that. I like that. What do we hate about sports?
What do we hate about sports?
I like it.
All right, I'm going to start working on it.
All right. I hope it doesn't begin and end with Major League 3 back to the minors. I strangely enough like that one.
You may be the only man in history.
You're just not a huge Scott Bakula fan.
No, sir.
All right, Fletch. You have a wonderful week. And again, enjoy. I did, by the way, put up a mini banner of the 1955 NIT championship in my office.
Nice. All right, Skip.
Let's get to our music here first.
All right.
Bring